Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today, and welcome to the New Westminster Chamber of Commerce's Transportation and New Westminster Breakfast event. To begin, we respectfully acknowledge that New Westminster is located on the unceded and unsurrendered lands of the Hul'qumi'num-speaking peoples. We recognize that colonialism has often erased or obscured their histories and connections to these lands. As a community, we are committed to learning, listening, and building meaningful relationships with the people whose lands we're on, all my relations. My name is Karima Jivraj, and I have the honor of serving as the board chair for the New Westminster Chamber of Commerce. This morning, we're pleased to welcome several special guests: Chief Rhonda Larrabee, MP Jake Sawatsky, who's the MP for New Westminster, Burnaby, and Millardville, but mostly New Westminster. Honorable Mike Farnworth, our Minister of Transportation and Transit, are one of our keynote speakers. Honorable Jennifer Whiteside, who is our Minister of Labor and also the MLA for New Westminster, maybe Coquitlam. Mayor Patrick Johnstone from the City of New Westminster. Councillor Ruby Campbell and Daniel Fontaine from the City of New Westminster. Chief Paul Hyland from New Westminster Police. Deputy Chief Randy Fincham from Metro Vancouver Transit Police. Jason McDaniel, Interim President and CEO of ICBC, another keynote speaker. Kevin Quinn, CEO of TransLink, also a keynote speaker. Blair Qualley, President and CEO of the New Car Dealers Association of BC and today's event sponsor. And Fad Al-Allah, who's actually not here today. He's the joining us. As part of our commitment to advocating on behalf of local businesses, the Chamber has brought together the Minister of Transportation and Transit, the interim CEO of ICBC, interim president and CEO of ICBC, and the CEO of TransLink to discuss one of the biggest topics affecting our region: transportation in and around New Westminster. And while I was preparing for today, I was reminded, as I was thinking about all the things, all the transportation, I was reminded about one of my most memorable transportation experiences, also known as the Bangkok Tuk-Tuk Adventure. So, I'm not sure if you're able to see this. Ladies, there is no graceful way to sit on the floor of a tuk-tuk. It just doesn't happen. So this photo will actually show you the gentleman at the front, the driver. We were 11 of us taking a tour of Bangkok. We were doing a street food tour, all in tuk-tuks. And it turned out our driver must be 80 plus. But the fun part about him is about second stop 2, he decided to pull over at a roadside moonshine stall, buy a 2-liter bottle of moonshine. And at the same time, we noticed he was not only drinking his moonshine, but he was watching YouTube and, he was watching videos at the same time. Let me tell you, I was petrified. I had no idea how I would explain to the board of directors for Pets Canada if any one of us were injured. And Christine, who was sitting with me, was glaring at me all evening because she was worried she'd have to fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. So note to self, if you're going to find yourself a tuk-tuk driver, make sure there is no bottle of moonshine, and make sure that he is not watching videos on his phone while speeding 80 clicks per hour down a main road in rush hour traffic in Bangkok. Just saying. Transportation isn't just about cars and trucks moving through our city. It's about people moving throughout the region safely and efficiently. It involves transit routes, vehicle routes, truck routes, motorbikes, cyclists, pedestrians, and of course, the increasing impact of climate change. We're all excited for the new Pattullo Bridge, but as we know, New Westminster is the hub, and traffic congestion is a constant challenge. Royal Avenue at rush hour. It's taken me 20 minutes to get out of the parking lot at Columbia Square sometimes. The Queensboro Bridge, every business owner and resident's nightmare during peak times, and if there is a car crash. And Minister Farnworth, hint, hint, we really do need another river crossing solution as soon as possible. Please and thank you. When any feeder route has a car crash or emergency, the entire city gridlocks. We have seen cases where snowstorms or major incidents caused 6-hour backups. Businesses want to be heard, so everyone, please feel free to use the QR code on your table to submit your questions to the panelists using Slido, and we will do our best to get to all the questions. I'd now like to invite Chief Rhonda Larrabee to share a few words.
Howsiem, good morning. Good morning. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished guests, all of you are distinguished guests as far as I'm concerned. My name is Rhonda Larrabee, and I have been chief of the Kakite First Nation for over 30 years. And it's been actually one of the most rewarding things that I have done in my long life. I have found out the history of New Westminster. I have found out the history of my ancestors. My ancestors are George and Sophia Joseph, who are buried here in New West at St. Peter's Cemetery. And my grandfather, George Joseph, is also buried there, and a great uncle who is buried there. My grandmother, Ida Charlie Joseph, is buried at her home reserve in Chilliwack because that is what happens to First Nations people to be buried in their homeland. But sadly, my mom, when she was young, was taken to residential school along with her siblings in Kamloops. And when she came out, her parents had passed away, and our land was taken away in 1916. On behalf of all my ancestors, I am so glad that we are still here, and I raise my hands to each of you and welcome you to our unceded traditional territory. It's been, when I first started coming to New Westminster, I met some pushback a little bit. They said, no, there were no First Nations people here. But of course there were. And eventually, people started to listen to me. People started to learn the history. And I have to say that in the mid to late 1990s is when New Westminster started a reconciliation path long before it was mandated by the government. And I am so proud of that because you all have welcomed us, our community, and we have done many partnerships with many businesses here. We have created native housing. on 6th Street in partnership with Luma Native Housing. And we have 4 of our families living there at this moment, and we're so proud of that. The other hat that I wear is my husband Brian, who couldn't make it today, is president of the Transit Museum Society. And that involves, and of course I'm a member, and so we do a lot of things regarding the history of transportation. For instance, when New Westminster hosts a car-free day, we work with Kevin Quinn from TransLink, and we bring one of our vintage buses there, and it's called a museum bus. And in the museum bus, we have a driver named Ralph, who is actually a mannequin, to greet you. And on both sides of our museum bus is the history of transportation in the Lower Mainland. Their canoes on the river before everything else started happening with the horse and buggy and then the cars and everything. And so, so many things that we're involved with. And I do agree with Karima about some of the holdups that happen here in New Westminster, because I have been late to some events because of traffic, because of construction. That's another thing, is the construction. And so I agree with her that there should be another river crossing to get to Queensborough, to get anywhere. And next Thursday, I am pleased that our community is getting a tour from the Patello Bridge people of the new bridge. And I'm very excited about that, to be walking on the new bridge next Thursday morning or afternoon. And so I'm excited about that. And so I think that's about all I wanted to say, and I'm happy to be here today, and I hope and pray that some solutions will come to ease the traffic congestion here in New Westminster, because it's beneficial for everybody. So thank you for listening. Haitka CM, Haitka.
Thank you, Chief Larrabee, for your powerful words and ongoing leadership. And for the record, all that construction traffic is all Mayor Patrick Johnston's fault. I am now pleased to welcome Mayor Patrick Johnstone to provide his opening remarks. You're welcome, I think.
Thank you. Glad to see so many people here today. It's just wonderful to have this many people show up for a chamber breakfast this early in the morning, and I'm glad you all got across the bridge safely. I want to begin by Mark. Oh, let me see what I have. Oh, I can't even see what my slides are, so I'm gonna. Oh, look at that! I wore a tie. Okay. I want to begin by thanking Chief Larrabee and placing us a little bit here. This place where we are in New Westminster, at the narrow of the river, has always been a transportation corridor. The river was the freeways, and it was the railways, and it was how all of the goods and the people moved throughout the region. And the trails were the sidewalks and the local roads that connected people to those freeways, to that big river freeway. And it was transportation, primarily the moving of goods to the gold fields and the moving of the gold out of the gold fields, first gold, then timber, then other resources out of the interior, that was the engine for the colonization of this space. And that's actually what was the cause of the displacement that resulted in this space. It caused, transportation from the beginning caused disruption to lives and to cultures, to the people who actually lived here. And I'm just very grateful that Rhonda and her family are still here, are still telling us the stories and reminding us about how that separation took place. Because here in New Westminster, colonization is not ancient history, it is something that it continues to impact people today. So thank you, Rhonda, for giving us your words and your time. The theme today here is transportation in New Westminster, and we have three I'm going to quickly set the stage by talking about where New Westminster is in 2025. Anyone's familiar with this image? This is the TransLink trip diary. This is their major survey that TransLink does every few years across the Lower Mainland that talks about where the transportation situation is in the Lower Mainland. And to quote Justin McElroy, I have charts. New Westminster is by far the most transit-dependent municipality in the Lower Mainland. We are among the most transit-dependent municipalities anywhere in Canada. In 2023, we exceeded the city of Vancouver for the first time to become a true transit city. That chart is the number of mode trips by transit amongst all the cities in the Lower Mainland. And New Westminster is far left, the highest number. This second chart is from Metro Vancouver's recent analysis. It showed that when all housing costs and transportation costs are combined, New Westminster is the most affordable municipality in the Lower Mainland to live in and move around in. We're at the bottom of this chart of when you combine housing costs and transportation costs. And yes, for people who ask, that does include taxation and utility costs and all the other costs of running a household in New Westminster. We are the most affordable city in the Lower Mainland. And I want to argue that these two charts are not a coincidence. They are actually tied together. This is what transit-oriented development looks like, and this is what transit-oriented development does. Providing housing near transit in more walkable neighborhoods has been the regional goal for 2 decades now, and no one, I would argue, has done this better than New Westminster. Now, between the 2011 and 2023 transit diary surveys, I don't know why I put 2024 on there. The 2011 and 2023 transit trip diaries, the number of daily trips taken by people in New Westminster went from 194,000 to 235,000. That's a 21% increase in the number of trips generated in New Westminster over that time. So your first response is, yeah, 21% more trips. No wonder traffic is getting worse, right? Except that if we break those trips down by what form those trips take, over that 12-year period, trips in New Westminster by people driving cars went down by 9%. More people traveling, more trips, more shoppers, more workers, more people taking their kids to school, 21% more, but a 9% increase in the number of car trips. To no one's surprise, transit trips are going up from 21 to 23. We saw a bit of a dip because of COVID. You know, we all know the COVID dip, and we all know the recovery coming from COVID. But not only are transit trips going up, walking trips are going up as well, doubling over those 12 years. People are living closer to their destinations. They're living closer to the businesses, to the schools, to the shops, and to the amenities that make New Westminster livable. And we all know, on top of all this, we all know, and we're often happy to celebrate, New Westminster is the center of the region. Our transportation future in this city is not told in this chart. It's tied actually to the transportation of the entire region, because we are in the center of that region. Best estimates for Metro Vancouver is that by 2040, there will be 1 million more people living in this region. And we know what that looks like. If they all adopt a car-dependent lifestyle when they get here, that will be hundreds of thousands of new cars on the road. That sounds like good news for our sponsors here today. People are going to need cars. There's lots of cars to be sold in the next 30 years. But I'm afraid to tell you that not everybody in that who moves here can be car dependent. We do not have the room in this region and our communities for those hundreds of thousands of new cars. And even Minister Farnworth's famously deep pockets do not hold enough tax money to build the roads and the bridges that would be required to accommodate enough cars to accommodate 1 million new people moving around this region. I'm not going to make an environmental argument or a healthcare or a livability argument. I could make all of those. I'm making the geometry argument. There is not enough space. New Westminster is challenged for space. We need land space. We need it for housing, we need it for parks, we need it for amenities, we need it for the many things that make this city livable. And we cannot take that space away from our residents to build more lanes, trying to do what no city in the history of cities has ever done, which is build our way out of congestion. If we plan to move around this region in the year 2040, we need a significant number of those people to have access to alternatives to car dependency. Many of them will have cars. That is fine. Cars are an important part of the transportation matrix, and they will continue to be an important part of the transportation matrix through to 2050. But if they are all forced to be dependent on cars for their daily travel through New Westminster, our city and our region will grind to a halt. Goods movement will grind to a halt. Economic development will grind to a halt because people will be stuck on inadequate road space. That all sounds like bad news. Fortunately, the Mayor's Council and TransLink have developed a plan for the decade ahead to address this growth challenge. Integrated with our regional housing plans, we have a plan for prioritized for new transportation investments in the region, and it's called the Access for Everyone plan. This is good for New West, and for the good of the region, we need to fund this plan. We need the Mayor's Council, we need us, the Mayor's Council, and the provincial government to come together on a new funding model that will see this transit growth realized. And just as critically, we need the federal government to come to the table and deliver long-promised permanent transit funding. I'm trying out a new message on the Prime Minister based on new news because I know this is going to get him excited. Public transit, it's like a pipeline, but for people. Okay. Anyway, okay, so all that to say, transit is more than just a transportation solution. It's a livability solution, it's an affordability solution, it's an environmental solution, it's a goods movement solution. It is, it's the big livability solution for our growing region, and it is what we need to invest in and put our dime down on to keep our region moving as it continues to grow and prosper. So thank you very much.
So MP Sawatsky, please get Mr. Carney to write a check to Minister Farnworth so we can do what we need to do. Done? Okay. See you guys later. My job's done. I'm out. No, just kidding. And now, thank you, Mayor Patrick Johnstone. We appreciate it. I'd now like to introduce our first keynote speaker. Minister Farnworth needs no introductions. He was first elected as the MLA for Port Coquitlam in 1991 and served until 2001, and then again from 2005 to the present day. Minister Farnworth is the Minister of Transportation and Transit and serves as Government House Leader. He previously served as the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Minister of Employment and Investment, and Minister responsible for Housing, Minister of Health, Minister responsible for Seniors, Minister of Social Development and Economic Security, and the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. I think the next one is the Premier. Just asking. Mike was raised in Port Coquitlam and has lived there for more than 50 years. He's earned a bachelor's degree in geography at Simon Fraser University and was elected to Port Coquitlam City Council for 3 terms in 1983, 1985, and 1990. From 2001 to 2004, Mike worked in Bulgaria, the Balkans, and Iraq on democratic governance programs to help build multi-party democracies in former one-party states. After returning to the legislature, he served as the official opposition spokesperson for Justice, Public Safety, and Solicitor General, and as the official opposition House Leader. Minister Farnworth.
I'm going to thank you for giving my remarks.
Lengthy introduction. It's like I forgot all those things. If I were to, I know. No, I'll add. There is one more that I will add that someone reminded me of from my good friend Mike DeYoung when he left provincial politics. He reminded me that I am the last living link to the 20th century in the BC legislature today, because everybody else is elected in the 21st century. Anyway, thank you very much, and it really is a pleasure to be here. And I want to thank the New Westminster Chamber for inviting me to be here as well. And I'm also grateful to be with you on the of the Halkmingram speaking peoples, including the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Kwantlen, and Kakite First Nations, whose stewardship of the land continues to this day. It's a pleasure to join you at this breakfast to talk about something that's very close to my heart and central to the well-being of our region: transportation, and not just moving people, but connecting communities, building resilience, and planning for the future. And I understand about some of the challenges you face, because just as New Westminster is a hub for transportation and a hub for transportation routes coming together, the community that I live in, Port Coquitlam, is also very much a hub, being home to the railway yard, the largest railway yard west in Western Canada, which bisects our community in two, and that creates its own unique sets of challenges. Transportation is not just about moving people, but connecting communities, building resilience, and planning for the future. And New Westminster has long been a critical hub in the Lower Mainland, historically, economically, and geographically. People count on this community. The transportation network here isn't just about roads or bridges, it's about people, businesses, and opportunity. As Minister of Transportation, I take seriously our role in delivering infrastructure that supports growth, safety, and sustainability to keep people and goods moving. Simply put, this community holds some of our ministry's key projects: the Patala Bridge Replacement Project, Queensborough Rehabilitation Work, the Howe Street Multi-Use Pathway Project, and of course, New Westminster connects many folks to our major projects in other parts of the Lower Mainland: the Fraser Valley Highway 1 widening program, the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain program, and the Fraser River Tunnel project, to name just a few. These projects reflect a broader vision, not just building infrastructure, but building community resilience. I want to start by talking about the Patala Bridge replacement. We know we're not just providing a crossing here, we're knitting together two vibrant cities with safe, reliable options for all. The new bridge will deliver a modern 4-lane toll-free crossing connecting Surrey and New Westminster, building safer and wider lanes, and importantly, protected walking and cycling paths separated from traffic by barriers, making safer travel for everyone. This bridge will be a more efficient connection for goods movement. It is modern. Wider lanes will allow traffic, particularly truck traffic, to flow more safely and efficiently between these communities. On the New Westminster side, once the bridge opens, there will be a new direct off-ramp to East Columbia Street, which improves connectivity and traffic flow. We're also building new multi-use overpasses. One will connect Royal Avenue to the Agnes Greenway, and another will link Columbia Street and the Central Valley Greenway to the bridge, strengthening active transportation routes in and out of the city. Even with that good news, I know construction and traffic pattern changes can be disruptive. And I appreciate this community's continued patience as we work to deliver this critical piece of infrastructure for our region. This replacement is more than just engineering, it's about community building. It will support local businesses, It reduces congestion, enhances safety, and offers real active transportation options for pedestrians and cyclists. This is all coming soon as we expect to have traffic on the new bridge by Christmas. Traffic will be switched to the new bridge in phases to allow for completion of the tie-ins to existing roadways on either side. During the first phase, we will have one northbound lane open that will connect to Columbia Street. And over the following few weeks, we will have subsequent phasing of traffic onto the new bridge. Turning now to Queensborough, we're planning ahead to meet future demand. As you all know, the Queensborough Bridge carries Highway 91A into New West. That bridge and its connector are critical, not just for cars, but for commerce, for goods movement, for people. We currently have a project out to tender for a major renewal deck replacement and resurfacing on Highway 91A, including the Queensborough Bridge. In a renewal, we'll extend the life of this vital connector, improving safety and sustaining the flow of traffic in a growing part of our region. By investing in this corridor, we're supporting Queensborough's development and ensuring that residents and businesses have a dependable, resilient connection to the provincial highway network. And I just want to pause and say, when I drove over this morning, I also saw how important that redecking is, filling in those potholes, and I look forward to that being completed. I also want to highlight a project that reflects our commitment to active transportation and inclusive mobility. A new multi-use pathway along Howe Street in Queensborough, in collaboration with New Westminster's Active Transportation Network Plan. Howe Street, especially the segment between Boyd Street and Ewan Avenue, is slated for an enhanced multi-use pathway. These improvements will include safer crossings, lighting upgrades, bus stop improvements, and enhanced pedestrian signage. For a growing neighborhood like Queensborough, this means real options: parents biking with their children, commuters walking, people rolling, all without having to rely on busy vehicle roadways. By prioritizing people with these upgrades, not just cars, and building a network that's inclusive and sustainable for everyone. All of this work is underpinned by our belief that transportation is a public good. It's how people get to work, how kids get to school, how businesses thrive. We all know that well-planned, efficient transportation networks are essential to livable, affordable, accessible, and connected communities. And we know that New West is a community that folks around BC count on every single day, especially those who live and commute in and out of this city. It's critical that our transportation infrastructure keeps pace with the growing needs of this population. That's why we continue to invest in the public infrastructure that our province needs, and partnering directly with the communities that can tell us what's most important. You know as well as I do that transportation is a crucial part of BC's economy. Every investment we make, whether in highways, transit, our bridges, or our ports, supports jobs and our communities. And our government will continue to invest in projects, large and small, in all corners of this province, including New West. The work will be there. We're also engaged with the Government of Canada, other provinces and territories, as well as industry partners, labor leaders, and First Nations, because supporting greater coordination within our overall trade network supports our province's economy, and that's good news for all of us. Smart investments in infrastructure, especially those that eliminate bottlenecks, diversify our economy, and help BC businesses get their goods to market as efficiently as possible. We'll continue to work with our local communities and businesses to strengthen our economy and create good jobs across the province. No matter what the world throws at us, and let's be honest, lately that's been a lot, we're focused on making a difference for people here in our province and proving how strong and prosperous British Columbia can be. So I want to take this opportunity to thank the Chamber and all of you for your continued engagement. Your input, feedback, and partnership are vital as we move forward. Our work in transportation involves many large-scale projects, but we don't do these in a vacuum. They happen because of you. And my commitment to you is that we will deliver these infrastructure investments responsibly, transparently, and with a long-term outlook. We'll continue to work with the City of New Westminster, with business leaders, residents, Indigenous partners, and with organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce here in New West to make sure that our transportation system works for everyone. So with that, I want to thank you once again for the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to answering any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Minister Farnworth. I'm now pleased to introduce Jason McDaniel. Jason McDaniel became the interim president and CEO of the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia, or ICBC, on June 1st, 2020, BC, providing leadership and strategic direction to ensure that ICBC delivers affordable insurance, excellent customer experiences, and trusted protection to people in BC and all who travel on our roads. In his nearly 20-year career at ICBC, Jason has held several executive and senior leadership roles. As VP of Operations, Jason led ICBC's implementation of enhanced care, the company's largest generational change, shifting BC's auto insurance from a legal-based model to recovery-based care. Jason holds a law degree from the University of Victoria and practiced with a prominent litigation firm before joining ICBC in 2006. As a former corporate secretary at ICBC as well, his understanding of the complexities of insurance and corporate governance have deeply influenced how he navigates challenges and ensures responsible, forward-thinking management. Outside of his work, he's busy as a parent to 4 children. Jason, any of those fur-legged? No? All 2-legged? Whatever. Whose ages span across 16 years. Jason also sits on the BC United Way campaign cabinet. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much, Kim. Just checking. I think I have a mic that's working. Yes, fantastic. Thank you very much, Karima. Pleasure to be here with all of you. Also, I'm honored to be here on the unceded territories of the Halkman-speaking people, and was very touched Chief Larrabee's introduction at the beginning. I won't repeat my thanks to all of the others that have been thanked for being here, but it's an impressive group of people. But I will add, I was once told as a CEO, and especially an interim one, it's a good idea to acknowledge your board members in the room. So Buki Araui and Mike Gold, thank you as well for being here with us today. And also I should say, I'm not from New West, but my mom has lived on Quayside Drive for about 20 years. Her husband, who passed away earlier this year, was a very active member of the Quayside Community Association. So today is not the first time I've heard about traffic issues in New West. I have been hearing them regularly for quite a while. So when I was thinking about what is it I wanted to talk to you about today, when we're talking about transportation and ICBC's role in it, and if there's one thing I would say is, I'd leave you with is ICBC has really changed a lot over the last few years. Some of those ways we've changed have started to be seen in how we interact with customers, and some of the others are still percolating in the organization, but we really are evolving, and especially in this space. There's no doubt, though, the catalyst for why I say ICBC is different and why it's changed was our move about 4.5 years ago to enhanced care. We moved from a system where the main thing you bought from us was protection from liability if you hurt someone else. And now, the main product you buy from us is the entitlement to care and benefits for you and your family and anyone in your vehicle if you're injured in the road. That changes how we interact with customers. It changes our relationship with customers that approach us. And not only are we changing there, it's making us rethink all of our customer interactions through all parts of the organization. And so this is where we're going. And that change of ICBC, though, is built on a foundation we're also really proud of, which is we, as far as insurance companies go, are a big one. When you look at the policies we sell, we're the second biggest auto insurer in Canada, the 4th biggest property and casualty insurer. And we do that selling one product in one place. And that place is where we live. All of us. We are all here in BC. We are customers of ICBC, as are our family, our friends, our neighbors. Our accountability for how we're doing is at events like this, but family dinners, neighbors' barbecues, that we are here serving the people in the province where we live. And that is a big part of us. And we're more than an insurance company. We provide driver licensing across the province. We are committed to road safety. We do a lot of things that you wouldn't traditionally see by an insurance company, and we do all of it, again, where we live. And yet, all of that work we do is a commitment where we're doing things well. Transportation will be safe, affordable, efficient, and people will have confidence they'll be taken care of if something goes wrong. And yet, we fix no cars. We provide no treatments, we perform no surgeries, we train no drivers, we build no roads. Everything ICBC does is through partnerships. We do it through partnerships with local businesses, disability associations, other advocacy groups, local governments. Everything we do in accomplishing those goals is done through partnerships with others. And that is a big part, I think, of who we are, how we seek to serve the province, but also how we seek to serve this community and the people in New Westminster. But when you think about all the things that ICBC does to serve people in the province, we are under no illusion what your first ask is of us, and that is to provide a product that is affordable. That's why I would say in supporting transportation in that way, ICBC is really proud that because of operational changes and that shift to enhanced care, we will go 7 straight years without an increase in our basic insurance rates. And at the same time provide $640 in rebates back to customers at a time where that money we know is really needed. We have not been an increasing portion of your personal and business operating expenses. We're proud of that. Also, if you are in a business that competes with people not lucky enough to insure their vehicles in British Columbia, they can't say the same. And we hope sincerely that that provides a competitive advantage for you in this province, something that matters to us. But affordability is, in the aggregate sense, yes, but then also how do we think about how much we want to charge people individually? Safe decisions should be rewarded. That's an important part of our system. You will be no surprise if you go many years without a collision that you will see your rates go down. Same though, if you have a car that has, for example, automated emergency braking, we know that feature reduces crashes, so that will see a 10% discount. But, and I hope much to the mayor and Kevin's happiness here, there's something new we're embracing at ICBC about safe choices. And one of those really safe choices you can make is to drive less. The less time you spend on the road, the less likely you are to be involved in a collision. That is good for our business. If you stop crashing into each other, I look smarter. And so that is a big part of what we think is an opportunity. We provide discounts now to people that drive less than 15,000 kilometers a year. We've provided those discounts on over 2 million policies. And there are other things we can do. And in fact, I would never want anyone to sell your car because you hate ICBC. But if you don't need a car, that is perfectly fine with us. We are not in the business of maximizing revenue. We try to collect what it takes to cover costs. So we are very supportive of decisions that involve spending less time in your car when that option is available to you, and very supportive of those options expanding so more and more people can make those choices. Enhanced care. I mentioned it briefly. I think I should say a bit more because it really ties to transportation, is to know what happens if something happens to me. It is a system about giving people the care and benefits they need when they need them for life. Ultimately, the goal of the system is probably the goal you would have if one of your employees or family members or someone you care about was hurt. And that's that they can get back to the life they had before the accident as quickly as possible. That's really it. That's really the function of the system. When we do that well, it works. It's why I don't really like the term no fault. I'm not afraid of it. It's a term that's used, not embarrassed by it, but I just don't think it's accurate. The reality is, fault still matters. We assess fault in every single collision that happens, and if you're the kind of driver that's at fault for accidents, we will jack up your premiums, and I will not apologize for that. And that's a big part. Same with the legal and regulatory consequences. They haven't changed in the system. The only thing that's changed is because you buy insurance from us and pay money for insurance, that if you made a split-second judgment error, or if your teenage child new to driving made a quick decision and it led to an accident, or you hit a moose, your insurance will be there for you to provide you care and benefits you need as you need them. That's the only part of it that's about fault. And I can tell you that we have paid out in the 4.5 years over $1.5 billion to over 211,000 people injured in accidents. And we've done that while at the same time, we have claims in that old world that have not yet settled. You know, there can be sometimes a romanticism of that system. It was slow, it was inefficient, things took a long time, there was maximums on what you could receive. And now we have over 96% of claims payments going directly to the benefit of our customers, where in the old system, many claims saw a third of it going to the legal industry. It's very different. It is the reason why we have affordable insurance. And in the world of transportation, I've said why we care about crashes. We also have the data for crashes. We also understand where they happen and why they happen. We have expertise in our organization. And as well, unique to a public insurer, that we are able to make smart investments to make improvements and changes that are likely going to reduce claims. We get a return on investment for smart investments that help reduce the likelihood of accidents. And because of all those things, we have a role and have always had a role in transportation, but we think there's an opportunity for that to get even bigger. We have spent $240 million on road improvements since 1990 at ICBC. We spent about $500,000 right here in New West over the last 5 years. That is money we invest in partnership with the others building those roads, because we know that those are the kinds of changes, whether it's pedestrian lights or speed bumps or changes to the design of an intersection. Those are the kind of changes that will reduce crashes. So we see for every dollar we invest in this, about a $4.50 return. So we are doing good things that help people, and it's the smart financial decision for ICBC. And again, it's an area we can expand. The other thing we've been doing through the whole history of ICBC is partnership with law enforcement. The other things that cause crashes: speeding, distracted driving, impaired driving, running red lights. So we, through money and other partnerships with law enforcement, have been committed to doing things that reduce those risks. Some of those things include the automated enforcement cameras. There's 140 of them in the province. They help. They're in the intersections where that was the biggest problem. You probably know there's one in New Westminster at 120th, at Brunette and Braid Street. These are cameras that, for us perspective, are not about revenue. We wish there was none, because we know that the speeding and the driving through those intersections causes crashes, which ultimately puts pressure on your insurance costs. All these things that I'm talking about that ICBC is doing, they really form part of what we call our Move for the Further 2031 strategy. We're tackling it in 2 waves. Over the first 3 years, we're really invested in improving customer service, which includes culture work and training, and also investment in technology. You know, if you renewed your driver license recently, it is my sincere belief that the next time you'll be able to do it on your couch, that these are the kinds of investments that we know will make a difference, to have more channels to deal with us, and that we have more time and more skill when you really need to talk to someone in our organization to do it well. And then over the long term, continuing to have our focus on safe and sustainable transportation. When you make those choices to drive better and drive less, it is good for our business, it is good for your congestion, it is good for the earth. It is a smart decision to make that we want to continue to play a bigger role in doing. So thank you. That is what I wanted to tell you about ICBC, our role in transportation, And I look forward to hearing from the next speaker. So I'll turn it back to you, Prima. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Our last keynote speaker of the day is, well, we're not ending yet, but our last keynote speaker is Kevin Quinn, the CEO of TransLink. Kevin is the Chief Executive Officer of TransLink, Metro Vancouver's award-winning transportation authority. As CEO, he leads one of North America's most innovative transit organizations, overseeing bus, SkyTrain, SeaBus, HandyDART, and the West Coast Express services, as well as cycling and walking infrastructure, 5 bridges, and the major road network. No pressure, Kevin, none. Under Kevin's leadership, TransLink is shaping the future of transportation in Metro Vancouver. He has advanced the largest bus service expansion in more than a decade, championed bus rapid transit, and launched a groundbreaking real estate development program that unlocks new revenue sources to reinvest in transit. Kevin's vision is to put people at the heart of transit, ensuring customers experience reliable, safe, and convenient service every day while supporting the employees who make that possible. By getting the fundamentals right and continually modernizing, he sees public transit as a driver of economic growth and stronger, more connected communities. Beyond Metro Vancouver, Kevin serves on the board of directors of the American Public Transportation Association and is a member of the President's Group, a coalition of senior executives advocating for accessible, inclusive workspaces across British Columbia. Welcome, Kevin.
Turn me off the screen. All right. All right, well, good morning, everyone. This is a lot of fun. I love standing up here, getting to talk about transportation. This is my passion. I want to thank Mayor Johnstone for for basically delivering my remarks this morning. That was a great start, a great pro-transit start. And Chief Larrabee, thank you so much for your kind words. Give your best to your husband, Brian, and the great work that he does with the Transit Museum Society. Reconciliation is such an important part of our vision at TransLink, and the work that we're doing, the partnerships that we're doing with First Nations is so very important to us. It is great to be here today. Thank you so much, Karima, for the warm introduction, inviting TransLink to be here for this really critical discussion. Today I'm going to be sharing some insights into our priorities and our plans for New West, and as well as for the overall Metro Vancouver region. I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge Minister Mike Farnworth, Minister Jennifer Whiteside, Chief Larrabee, of course, Member of Parliament Jake Sawatsky. Jake, good to see you. Mayor Johnstone and the entire Mayor's Council that's so supportive. Councillors Ruby Campbell and Daniel Fontaine, and many more who couldn't be in the room with us today. So thank you so much. And thank you all for your support and your commitment in investing in great transportation options and really building a more livable home for us all here in New Westminster and in Metro Vancouver. New Westminster is so key to our region's success, and as you can see, this water looks like Chicago on St. Patrick's Day for some reason. I don't know what you were doing that day. Anyways, it's such a central hub in Metro Vancouver, and it's such a key interchange for us, really, for the transit network. I've a personal connection here, certainly. I spend a lot of time commuting to and from New Westminster every day with our head office in Sapperton, really strategically located next to the SkyTrain station there, really at the heart of Metro Vancouver. I think it's so cool to take a look back at the way that SkyTrain has really helped shape New Westminster in a really big way. New Westminster Station was the last stop when the Expo line first launched in 1985. That's 40 years ago this year. And I want to take you back for a second to 1985 just for a moment, where my staff were clear to point out that the Billboard Hot 100 single at that time was Careless Whisper by Wham! Do we all remember that song? Yeah, which I thought was a great metaphor for the lovely screeching sound of a SkyTrain coming through New Westminster, a bit of a careless whisper, if you will. Anyways, That's my joke of the day. I've been working on that all morning. Anyways, so, look, just like today, New West was bustling with opportunities as a key employment hub really in the geographic center of the region. In 1989 and 1990, Columbia Station, the Sky Bridge, the extension to Scott Road were completed, literally bridging a rapid transit iconic link across the Fraser River for the first time. And today, as we look around at the density around SkyTrain stations here in New West, and with the great charts that Mayor Johnstone showed, we know that transit really improves affordability. It unlocks housing, it provides great access to jobs, and it's helped shape this community in such a big way. Metro Vancouver is now home to 3 million people, and as business leaders, these are your employees, these are your customers, these are your suppliers, and the fact is that 1/3 of them today are relying on transit, but at rush hour, we know that there is persistent overcrowding, and that is meaning that a lot of people who need our services are being left behind. We're also grappling with growth. We know that in recent years, the regional population has really increased much faster than we planned. And this has created some real challenges like overcrowding on parts of our system, a pressing housing affordability crisis, growing congestion on our roads, and that has impacts certainly on quality of life and on this region's economic productivity. But we also know that transit is such a powerful economic driver to help address these challenges really head on. And that's why it was so important to approve our latest investment plan this past April. And so I want to really recognize Minister Farnworth and Mayor Johnstone, along with the rest of our Mayor's Council, for really a steadfast commitment to reaching this major milestone to benefit New West and all Metro Vancouverites. I think we're zipping through here for some reason. Anyways, it might sound a little odd to say that a plan is one of our biggest milestones of the year. I'm not touching this, I swear to God. But hear me out. This plan really gave our system some real breathing room. It let us grow, it eased overcrowding, and it let us focus on what riders really care about. And it really did put us on solid financial footing again. I've been speaking publicly about this for years. You've heard us a lot in the media talking about our funding gap. That's been a really key challenge for us, really coming out of the pandemic. The bottom line here is that revenues, frankly, haven't kept up with the funding needed to maintain and to grow the system. A big reason for this has been the shift to more electric and more fuel-efficient vehicles. That's been driving down the motor vehicle fuel tax revenues coming into TransLink to support our system. And without the approval of the everything, we'd be having a very, very different conversation today about service cuts that would slow down everything that helps keep Metro Vancouver tick. However, we're able to really move forward, ensuring people can get to work, that goods and people continue to move easily throughout the region. The Mayor's Council in the province really recognize the important role that transportation plays, and it's because of their support alongside our own $90 million in cost savings that we identified that our operations are fully funded through 2027, and our funding gap, our sizable funding gap, is cut nearly in half. And so look, there is still so much more work to do ahead of us to close that gap, to build that long-term stability, but this plan does ensure our system is more resilient for the years ahead. And I've got to say that I really reflect often on the fact that none of this really happened by chance, right? It took extraordinary collaboration across our regional and provincial partners, really united around a single truth, really this truth that transit is economic infrastructure. It really is economic infrastructure, and it doesn't just move people, but it powers opportunity. It lowers costs, it connects people to jobs, it's not optional, it's like a utility, right? It keeps our region moving every single day. And that investment plan that we passed allowed us to deliver the largest service expansion since 2018. And you can see all the little pink lines on the map, that's added service that we're bringing to the region, increasing service on 50 overcrowded bus routes, improvements or new service on an additional 40 routes, including 14 areas with really limited or no transit today, improved road conditions, and continued investments in walking and cycling and bus priority infrastructure. Mayor Johnstone showed a great chart really showing transit trips increasing over the last decade or so, and we anticipate those will grow more as this investment plan provides nearly about 22% of all the service expansion approved in the investment plan will be coming to the New West area. This includes more all-day service, new midday trips on key routes. We've already launched a lot of those this past September. Longer service spans and improved frequency across multiple routes that we'll launch this winter, and more frequent all-day service on major corridors next spring. We know that we have to continue to improve access to areas that are also not well served, and that's why this investment plan also really focuses on better access to key industrial hubs that have really emerged over the last decade, like Tilbury and Delta, Campbell Heights and Surrey and Gloucester Estates and Langley. And while those industrial areas may seem a bit far removed for New West, I think it's so important to keep in mind that you really are the geographic center of this region, and improvements to those industrial areas benefit by New West. Those are people not driving through New West to get to those areas today, right? And so we'll be engaging businesses early on in the new year on these new and improved services. Our investment plan also advances work to bring bus rapid transit, or BRT, to the region, and we think this is going to make just such a real impact by providing about 3 times as much BRT for half the price of the Canada line, right? Because it's so cost effective to build, while delivering service at similar speeds and similar frequencies. This year, we have advanced work along the first 3 BRT corridors along King George Boulevard in Surrey and in White Rock, from Langley to Maple Ridge along 200th Street, and from Metrotown to Park Royal, securing for the first time a rapid transit connection to, from, and across the North Shore. Our longer-term plans also do call for a BRT route serving New Westminster between Marine Drive Station and 22nd Street Station. And with more than 300,000 people living or working within walking distance of these corridors, BRT is absolutely pivotal to connecting communities, further supporting economic growth, affordability, and more opportunities that we see for housing development. We're also really continuing some operations here to expand. I'll talk about SkyTrain for a second. We'll keep it on this one. For SkyTrain investment that we know is coming by a whopping 27%, a big addition of SkyTrain. And so while the province and Minister Farnworth is out there with a shovel digging away for the Broadway subway line and the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain extension, we're getting ready on the back end. And once complete, these extensions will add nearly 22 kilometers to the SkyTrain system and serve more than 200,000 people daily by the end of the decade. And while many people don't see the behind-the-scenes preparations for the expansion, some of you may have had a chance to ride our next generation of SkyTrains, the new Mark V SkyTrains, which are bigger and will help us really expand service and meet the growing demand that we know is out there. We also know that Columbia Station, which is such an important interchange and transfer point, is slated for some station upgrades to accommodate system expansion, address capacity and congestion issues. We've already started some early technical work to upgrade the station, bring that facility up to modern standards, and address some of the challenges that we see at that station. We're expecting that to be in our capital budget and our next investment plan in 2027. We're also really focused on the region's walking and cycling infrastructure. And as you know, the Stewardson Way BC Parkway upgrades, those were completed in May 2025, adding separated walking and cycling paths, better lighting, and improved safety. We were so really excited about this project and delivering this collaboratively with the City of New Westminster, with Southern Railway, BC Hydro, and we celebrated this with customers in June. And these upgraded segments, this upgraded segment really supports the regional major bikeway network with safe, traffic-separated, active transportation lanes. And to date, about 360 kilometers of our 850-kilometer major bikeway network are complete, with remaining gaps really to be detailed soon. While most folks really may think of us, and we talk a lot about our role as your friendly neighborhood transit provider, we also really support goods movement in this region. That's part of our mandate. We play a key role in maintaining trucking routes and bridges that connect our ports, our industrial areas, and business districts. And we like to really think of this as trade-enabling infrastructure that is so critical in keeping our province competitive. And that's why it was so important in this investment plan to also increase road funding. And we did that to improve conditions on these major arterials, and we did so by 70%. These investments, alongside new simplified trucking standards, ensure more reliable cargo movement through the Lower Mainland. And with growing uncertainty, certainly that we see around the economic impact of tariffs, it's so important that we strengthen the local movement of goods that we know directly benefits consumers and businesses and really creates a strong local economy here at home. And because we've planned ahead and invested steadily, we know people can really count on the system. Our system is reliable, it is safe, it is still one of the best deals in town. And the fact is, every dollar that we put into public transit pays off several times over in jobs, in productivity, and in time saved. It expands the talent pool, it keeps goods and people moving, and it helps really every sector from retail to tech get where it needs to go. Every trip on our system adds to a stronger local economy. And delivering transit investments that not only improves accesses to services and destinations, but it is also how we're going to host the world next year with the FIFA World Cup. And so, look, these are really critical times for us as a region, particularly as households and businesses are facing some very real economic pressures. And that's why, for our part, I think our investments really matter. Our take is that transit really is a solution to many of the challenges facing our region, and we really view these commitments as commitments to reliability, commitments to affordability, and commitments to a region that really works for everyone. With that, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to the questions. Thanks.
He's a lot taller than I am. I'd like to introduce Blair Qualley. Blair has served as the president and CEO of the New Car Dealers Association of BC, the NCDA, for over 18 years, representing over 400 new car and truck dealers throughout the province. In this role, Blair speaks on behalf of the industry to the public, media, and government. The NCDA owns and operates the annual Vancouver International Auto Show, the best attended consumer show in Western Canada, and administered the North America leading Clean BC Go Electric rebate program for the province for some 15 years. Prior to joining the NCDA, Blair worked as at the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade, Loblaws, West Fair Foods, and Coca-Cola. Blair has also served on the boards of several not-for-profit organizations and public institutions, including the Langley Community Health and Hospital Foundation, Emily Carr University, and the Vancouver Public Library, amongst others. Blair's the New Car Dealers Association is also a sponsor for today, so thank you, Blair, and please welcome Blair.
Thanks very much, Karima, for that kind invitation. As I was saying, as I was walking up the stairs to her, that list of all of the things I've done tells me how old I'm getting. Chief Larrabee, MP Jake, good to see you. To your worship, councillors, and the other elected officials and special guests. And to all of you, it's my pleasure to be here on behalf of BC's franchise new car dealers, new car and truck dealers, I should say. Thanks so very much for being here and joining us for this bit of a marathon event. So I'm your halftime entertainment today. Thanks to the Chamber for organizing today's event, to our moderator and fellow speakers who represent many of the key parts of how British Columbians move, roads, transit, insurance, and public policy. As we heard from our speakers today about the many aspects of public transportation today, we have to acknowledge the reality for many families and businesses. Costs keep rising for housing, food, fuel, transit, childcare, and owning and maintaining a vehicle. Automakers are investing billions of dollars globally to meet expectations for cleaner technology, for safer vehicles, and for modern features. Consumers want those improvements, but they add to the cost of vehicles at a time when affordability is already a major concern. And it's not just drivers feeling it. Our more than 400 dealerships, most of them small family-run businesses, are dealing with higher operating costs, longer wait times for parts, and rising repair expenses. Big part of that is the result of the ongoing tariff dispute with our friends in the United States, but also policy decisions here at home. But with the right policy choices, we can take pressure off families, support jobs, and strengthen the transportation system. From an industry perspective, 3 priorities stand out. Firstly, putting the brakes on unrealistic zero-emission vehicle mandates. Now, but I should add that we were pleased to see the province making some small moves in that direction in the last week or two, and we look forward to continuing those discussions. Secondly, reinstating stable and predictable zero-emission vehicle rebates, whether federally or provincially, to bridge the price gap between new EV technology and the equivalent gas vehicles. Now, while we understand the government is in a tight financial situation, the Clean BC review report released this week underlines that consumer rebates play a real investment role in driving adoption of clean solutions. So we view this as an investment that will have financial and environmental benefits. And finally, updating the outdated $55,000 so-called luxury tax threshold to match modern vehicle costs. Just as an aside, the average price of a vehicle in Canada today is $66,000. So charging luxury tax on entry-level electric vehicles or family minivans or pickup trucks just doesn't make sense. Because for most families, especially outside of main transit corridors, a vehicle is not a luxury. It's how people get to work, take their kids to school, look after aging parents, and participate in the economy. So that's why we need to stop thinking about transportation as cars versus transit. British Columbia needs a multimodal system, strong transit, and yes, car dealers actually do take transit, safe, well-maintained roads and bike routes, and yes, car dealers ride bikes, although the thought of me in spandex is likely not something you want to visualize after that lovely breakfast this morning. We also need reliable bridges, thank you, Minister, and of course a safe modern vehicle fleet. When one part of the system breaks down, everyone feels it. Congestion hurts drivers, transit users, goods movement, emergency response, and the economy. Major projects like the new Patilla Bridge, widening of Highway 1 to the Valley, and key interchange improvements are not just construction projects, they're safety upgrades, economic enablers, and climate improvers. When traffic flows properly, we see fewer collisions, less idling, lower emissions, and lower business costs. As I mentioned previously, safety is also a core priority for our sector. But sometimes improving safety isn't about technology at all. Data-driven road design, better lighting, clear sight lines, smart signal timing often prevents collisions faster and more affordably than raising insurance rates. Dealers work closely with ICBC and the province on education and collision reduction partnerships. At the end of the day, everyone shares the same goal: a safe, more efficient, and more affordable transportation network. And we get there faster when government, industry, transit agencies, ICBC, and local communities all work together. Thank you again to the New West Chamber for bringing us all together for these important conversations. And thank you to all of you for being here this morning. Now it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome to the stage our panel moderator, Hayley Wooden-Hastings. Now, Hayley currently serves as the strategic advisor to British Columbia's head of state, the fantastic Honorable Wendy Kokia, Lieutenant Governor of BC. Hayley's an award-winning journalist and an editor who previously served as editor-in-chief of 3 publications, including Business in Vancouver, the largest business platform in BC, Haley is a local New Westminster resident and supports a number of causes through career, volunteer, and philanthropic efforts. For her achievements in journalism and work in the community, she received the King Charles III Coronation Medal. She's director and executive committee member of the Royal Columbian Hospital Foundation, based here in New West, and a board member of Big Sisters of the BC Lower Mainland, chair of the Justice Hack, and co-chair of the Pacific Autism Family Network's Launch Holiday Luncheon that just was held yesterday. Please join me in welcoming Haley and her panel to the stage. Thanks very much.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear us okay? Great. Thank you so much to the New West Chamber for the invitation to speak and join you. Thank you again to our panelists for not only presenting your keynotes, but for being willing to answer all of our burning questions as it relates to transportation. And on that note, I have your questions here and I'll be keeping an eye on them. So please do submit any questions you'd like to ask and vote for the ones you would like asked. And we'll try to get to as many of them as we can in the time that we have today. I'll start our conversation off, though, at a 30,000-foot level, if you will. We learned a lot from your presentations. It's great to hear, and obviously no surprise, each of you are making investments in improving our transportation network in New West, the region, and in the province. Are we making the right investments for the demand you expect to see in the years ahead, in the decades ahead? So a supply and demand question, Minister, perhaps I'll come to you first. How far out are you looking, and do you feel that the investments being made today will meet the demand you anticipate will come in the future?
Yeah, so from a provincial perspective, we're taking both short, medium, and long-term approaches in terms of investment, very much focused on livability and affordability in terms of communities within the Lower Mainland. At the same time, recognizing that the foundation in terms of our province's success is economic development. And so identifying what are the key transportation routes that we need to be able to move goods, services, and people. What are the key bottlenecks that we need to be addressing to ensure that continues. That means working with local government. It means working with the federal government on identifying what those key issues are, how do we secure the funding for them, but also the long-term planning that's needed to be able to bring projects online in an orderly, timely fashion.
Because it can, as we all know, take many, many years, right, to get a project officially online. And so it makes sense, of course, to do that planning long-term for the demand that will exist when those projects finally come online. Kevin, how about from a TransLink perspective? Are we meeting anticipated demand with the right supply at this point in time?
We have a good ways to go, to be quite frank with you. Our Access for Everyone plan, our 10-year plan, really envisions us doubling bus service over the next 10 years. And you know, this last bus service expansion was really important. I'll recognize it was about a 5% service expansion. So to double that, we still have a ways to go, and that's what we think this region really needs. That said, this is, you're not going to solve it all in one day, right? The issues that we saw, the changes that we saw from COVID and coming out of the pandemic and the impacts on our funding model are extreme. And again, they're not going to get solved overnight. So, you know, this investment plan was really important for two reasons. So one was, you know, taking care of our long-term deficit. So, you know, chopping that in half, working with the province and the mayor's council. But then also recognizing the way that our region has grown over the last several years and expanding to meet those needs. So, you know, I'm really happy with the path we're on, and we're going to roll out that bus service expansion as fast as we can. That's also something I think is really cool to know. You know, we passed this plan in April. We rolled out service in September. You know, show me a government agency that is moving that fast, that within 4 months of funding rolls out a new service, right? I think that's pretty cool, and we're going to continue to roll out that service. And you could grow more, and we need to be on more stable footing. And we're going to have to continue to kind of go down those two parallel tracks. The third piece that I'll just mention is capital funding. So a lot of that operating funding goes towards providing that transit service and growing that service that we have. We also have to work with our federal partners, our provincial partners, to identify those key regional projects like bus rapid transit that is going to allow the region to grow also in a bigger way, right? Those capital investments that we know the region really needs.
It's great too from a consumer or commuter perspective to see some of those early wins, especially when you're talking about longer time horizons, to be able to see in months that there are improvements being made that matter to people's lives. Jason, how about from your perspective, from a road safety point of view, are you seeing the right changes and investments being made at this point in time for what you anticipate we'll need?
No, it's a good question. I mean, the reality is the number of people with driver licenses and the number of insured vehicles on the road does tick up year over year. We have about 4 million licensed drivers and close to that registered and insured vehicles in the province. And I would say traditionally, ICBC's role has been, we're here, we got a toolbox. You know, in the toolbox is some data and some expertise and sometimes some money. And there when asked. And I think, so the long-term vision of planning is a role for us to increase in and do more in these partnerships. But I think the reality is if you have congestion now and the number of vehicles on the road increases, absent other changes, you know, they become more and more necessary. As I said, including driving less. Yeah.
Is congestion something we can solve, Minister? Appreciating we are in a growing region and province, right? We are making investments to improve the network, but we're growing, which is a good thing. Is congestion just simply part of something we should come to expect?
I mean, it's interesting when you ask that question because I go back to younger days. Congestion was in POCO. You had two ways of getting. You had one way of getting from the south side to the north side. You had to go under an underpass to the. It got to the point where you couldn't do that. So the province of the day built the Maryhill bypass. The Maryhill bypass it's now gets full of traffic. The city put over the Coast Meridian overpass as a third alternative route. So it's a question of recognizing, look, we are growing, we will always have people, and we need to give choices and options in terms of how we move people around. Because the reality is, as long as people are doing 9 to 5 and want to get to work at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, you are going to have peak traffic periods and you will have congestion. I think what's required is being able to give people options and choices, which means a transit system that works reliable, it is multimodal. It means ensuring that you've got the bridges and roads being built for vehicular traffic that's in place. And also in terms on the safety side, the enforcement measures to be able to deal with those who want to be distracted driving and causes accidents, which causes congestion, which causes delays. Those who want to run through intersections and do left turns have the ability to find and improve driver behavior. All of those things come together to make to make moving around our region more efficient. But I think it's going to be a fact of life that congestion is something that we are always going to have to deal with.
Well, and of course, one of those options is transit and TransLink. I'm sure you have, and we learned a bit about some of the data and the trends that you're seeing, but maybe you could share with us a little bit more about what you're seeing in terms of how people today are making different options, given that more options are now increasingly available.
Yeah, absolutely. I think options is what it's all about when it comes to congestion, giving people options. I think the minister made a really great point. I think for our part, we see congestion grow a couple percent, 1% to 2% every single year. That's the reality of where we live. For our part, it's interesting from a, I don't know, not to get like kind of congestion increase on you, but from a math perspective, when congestion increases on a corridor, we have to actually increase the amount of bus service on that corridor to provide the same level of service, right? Like the congestion backs it all up. And so what ends up happening is congestion goes up, we spend more money to basically provide the same level of service on a corridor. And so congestion literally costs us money. We spend tens of millions of dollars every single year in increasing service because of congestion. And what people feel, if you will, is can be very little impact, right? So we roll out a series of what we call bus speed and reliability measures, what you might see as dedicated bus lanes or queue jumpers, things like this. that really help buses get around congestion and actually keep our costs low. In fact, we have used funds that from time savings on implementation of bus priority measures to actually fund other bus routes, right? Like solving that problem literally saves us money and allows us to put that money elsewhere. That's an important part of it. Going back to options though, investing in active transportation and being sure that there is that seamless active transportation. You want me to use that?
Yeah,
That's
your
fine.
mic
Am I a
shifted.
little?
It shifted.
All right, well that's fine.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I'll take this off. So, we're going to continue to invest in active transportation. That's great. The other piece that I'll just note that's I think so important for New West is freight movement and truck movement. Oh my gosh, the truck traffic through New West is just incredible. And we play a role in trying to ensure seamless movement. Our mandate is about the movement of people and goods. In this last investment plan, as I noted in my remarks, we increased funding for the major road network by 70%. A lot of that is to address the congestion that we're seeing, the road condition deterioration that we're seeing on the major road network throughout Metro Vancouver. A big chunk of that, about $5 million, is coming now annually to New West. New West is also able to apply to a lot of our competitive programs as well. So we want to do our part as well to continue that movement of freight through the region.
Thank you. And I think we're all here for transportation nerdiness. You don't show up at 7:30 in the morning unless you want to get into the weeds just a little bit. So thank you for that. Jason, you mentioned ICBC is second largest of its kind in the country, right? So you get a lot of data. You're looking and examining congestion and other factors, I assume. What are you seeing around the congestion piece, and how is ICBC positioned to consider that, to help it, to work with partners on addressing road congestion?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, we say second largest. We're the second largest auto insurer of any sorts in the country. As a model like ours, we're definitely we're the biggest. Quebec's a bit different. And we know that congestion contributes to collisions, and collisions contribute to congestion, and it becomes a cycle. So the things we focus on: can people drive better, in addition to driving less? And those decisions, we're always going to be a supporter of smart road improvement decisions that reduce that, both financially and otherwise, and enforcement. So both automatic camera enforcement and other opportunities are things that ICBC is always going to be able to support, because the only way you're going to ultimately that I can consider other than big infrastructure changes, right, is if people drive better and don't drive at all when that's an option, you will reduce congestion, because reducing collisions will have a benefit to congestion.
You can tell us, are we bad drivers? What does the data say?
Are we bad drivers? Well, the frequency of collisions per policy sold gets a little bit better over the last few years. Each year, not massively better, but it gets a little bit better. But if you just count collisions, the problem is there's more cars. But the likelihood of getting a collision, there was a few years when smartphones were first introduced that we saw a spike up in the collisions per policy. But over the last few years, it is sort of mildly positive as a trend. So we're not getting worse. But we're not getting as much better as would be ideal.
Fair enough. Minister, obviously an easy solution if we had unlimited resources would be to build more. We need more bridges, we'll do it immediately, more buses, more bus routes, et cetera, et cetera. That's not our reality. So in a context where dollars are precious, you're trying to make strategic investments for the long term, what does the province look at, and what are some of the barriers around making the right decision? What do you know, what do you wish you had more of to make informed decisions?
Okay. Well, I'll start by going, apparently I was told I had really deep pockets.
Famously deep pockets.
Look, I think the approach that we take is to identify, okay, in some way it's very much, where do we get the biggest bang for the dollar? Both economically in terms of jobs and job creation and training opportunities, those kinds of things, but also what makes the biggest difference in terms of being able to move both people and goods efficiently, and also ensuring that you've also got to have regional equity. around the province, as well as the condition of particular bridges and roads and transit routes. All of those things come into play in terms of identifying, okay, what are the key priority projects going to be? And then also, where's the funding come from? Working with TransLink in terms of on the capital side of things, the province and the feds have worked very closely with them to increase on the capital side, working with local communities in terms of partnerships, working with the federal government lobbying for one of my favorite programs is when you have a one-third infrastructure program where the feds kick in a third, the local governments kick in a third, or the region kicks in a third, and the province kicks in a third. We need to be creative in terms of how we get the funding in place for projects that we want to build.
And quickly on that, we have a relatively new federal government. Has there been any change in direction as it relates to funding transportation here?
Yeah, I've been pleased so far with, I've had discussions with Gregor Robertson, the Minister of Infrastructure, and the Premier and the Finance Minister have met both with Prime Minister Carney and other members of the Cabinet in terms of British Columbia's needs. It's, as you know, we've got a significant share of the major projects they're talking about, and transportation funding and transit funding are key asks from British Columbia to the federal government at that point, and so far I've been pleased with what we're hearing.
Great. I like biggest bang for the buck from a TransLink perspective. Is it very clear what that is? That if you have limited dollars, it makes the most sense to alleviate congestion, move people, move goods more easily if you invest in whatever that is. Is that clear?
Well, I think for our part, we try to listen a lot to our riders and what our riders want. Riders want a bus that's going to come when it says it's going to come, right? Like that's running a cost-effective, reliable service. I like to say, our bus schedule is our contract with our customers. And that's how you build trust is by showing up over time when you say you're going to show up. So having reliable systems that show when your bus is going to show up, that it actually does show up at that time, I think is part of getting the basics right. And look, when you talk to customers, a lot of times what you'll find, yes, they certainly want a SkyTrain, they want big investments, they want that. They also just want a bus shelter to keep them dry in a very rainy region, right? It doesn't have to be these big, expensive, fancy projects. Again, not that those aren't needed in our region. I want to be really clear, right? We need to have those investments at all, but I think it's totally cool to take our cues from our riders. They want a bus that comes when it says it's going to come. They want that bus to run when they need it to run, right? So something we looked at with this investment plan is being sure that the times of the bus and bus are adjusted as we see, for example, a lot of shift workers trying to take transit and buses not running late enough at night or early enough in the morning. So how do we adjust that span of service so it runs when people want the bus to run, right? Like, this isn't rocket science. I know, like, what I'm saying. Everyone's like, this is kind of common sense, Kevin, right? I know, I get it. A lot of it, though, is listening to our customers and really pinpointing these pain points for them and then knocking that out of the park. And, in a way, like a business, that's how you win customers, right? Do the basics right, get the basics right. And that doesn't have to be crazy, cost prohibitive things a lot of times, I'd say.
Jason, we had a question submitted in advance from the Chamber around e-scooters, cyclists, ensuring that the proper insurance is in place for individuals who might be using different forms of transportation to navigate our streets, which it can become a chaotic street scene at times when you have people who are maybe difficult to see or in the wrong lanes, etc. How is ICBC thinking about ensuring the safety of individuals who are using micromobility and different options? And are you considering different insurance options to ensure folks are protected in the event of collisions?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, when it comes to the bicycles and e-scooters, if they're involved in a collision involving a vehicle, without assessing whose fault it was, they have access to our care and our benefits. And then, so that also has us very invested in infrastructure decisions and other decisions which mean it's safe. So as much as we talk about road improvements, the kind of road improvements we would invest in would include those that make the other choices, being a pedestrian, being a cyclist, being on an e-bike, safer choices. because ultimately we're responsible for all of that if there's interactions with vehicles. There is insurance in the private market available for people if they want it on the bikes. There's no mandatory insurance for bicycles, and that's not a decision for ICBC to ultimately make. But you can see big picture, you don't want to discourage micromobility, and the decision whether or not that should be insured is luckily not one I have to make. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll go to the minister next. What are your thoughts on micromobility, how that's evolving, and how it's a safety issue?
I think that this is an issue that is going to become significantly higher public profile in the years ahead. What we're seeing, and it's great people using alternative forms of transportation to get around micromobility, but one of the things that I'm particularly concerned about and hearing more and more is the complete lack of understanding of what those things, whether they're those people, you see them on the unicycle one, or on just the regular scooter, they are going, in many cases, they can go a lot faster than the 20K or the 30K they're supposed to be going. I'm particularly concerned when I see young people who are sometimes got someone on the back with them, they're not wearing helmets. I was coming out the other day, I watched a car, the car was in the right, this kid comes right, doesn't look, goes right through the stop sign, right in front of them. You've got kids that are like 8, 9, 10, and there needs to be, I think, government and communities are going to have to take a much closer look in terms of education, in terms of safety, the issues around insurance, but also in terms on the healthcare costs. Very quickly in 2019, the last time I was in Australia, they were much more, you were seeing much more than you were here at that time. And when I was down there, already I was hearing from the medical side of things, noticing an increase in accidents, head injuries in particular. And I know there's work being done to see if that's happening here, if we're seeing that here in British Columbia. But I think that is an issue that government is going to have to, both provincially and nationally, start to pay closer attention to.
And it's nice to be able to look to other jurisdictions potentially too to see best practices there. Kevin?
Yeah, just to kind of chime in on this. I think we really see these, e-scooters, shareable bikes, all of those pieces of the transportation ecosystem is really important. I think for our part, a few things. We do want it to be safe, and the minister is right that jurisdictions, regions that have implemented these have seen increases in hospitalizations as a result, whether that's head injuries or wrist injuries are the other really big one that folks see from people flying off of scooters and bracing themselves, and kids break a wrist, right? That's a big one. So for us, I think it's about that active transportation infrastructure and making sure that is safe and well built and well understood by the users as well as drivers, right? We want that to be seamless. We know that today, for example, in our major bikeway network that a lot of these folks are using, that there are lots of gaps. We got to fill those gaps because some of those gaps can be really unsafe. So we've got to make those safer. It's also interesting, I'll just add, to get a little nerdy with you, from like a policy perspective, in a role, maybe TransLink's role in this. Right now we've really left it. So first of all, I'll just note, we don't have a role in policing or any type of role in regulating this space. However, it's a key part of this transportation ecosystem. Right now, every municipality is kind of doing their own thing. And so what's happening is you're seeing folks on, say, e-scooters where they come to a jurisdictional boundary and the scooter literally just dies, right? Because it's not geographically programmed to go into the next municipality. Coquitlam recently had a partnership with Port Moody, so now some of those scooters can go between municipalities because they're using the same vendor. But most municipalities that are contiguous are not using the same vendor, and so that can create some real mobility problems. So you want to get to a SkyTrain from one municipality into another, and most riders, most users, they don't know where the municipal boundary is, right? They're just trying to get to the bus stop or the SkyTrain station, right? So, so in a way, we've been thinking about this internally. Does TransLink have a role to play in encouraging this cross-boundary seamless transition of e-mobility devices? How can we play a role? How can we encourage that with municipalities? So, this is a really quite emerging space that I think is going to change pretty dramatically over the next few years. And so, let's all keep an eye on that. It's a fascinating space.
Well, it's a great example that hits home why transportation really is a regional and beyond issue, right? It doesn't stop at our borders, and that's the way commuters and everyone think we live, work, and play in the region, not necessarily in one city. We have some great questions coming in from the audience, so thank you. One for you, Jason. So we know ICBC has changed its licensing system, so a probationary period and the removal of the second road test. What is the plan to ensure road safety and fairness for new drivers, and what steps will be taken to support safe roads?
Turn the licensing to the back half of the question, but if I start with the licensing, I mean, it's worth saying for ICBC, where our whole business and ultimately our whole success is based around people crashing into each other less. I can say I'm not worried about the licensing changes. That having a graduated licensing period, and even a longer graduated licensing period, where people have restrictions on alcohol and passengers, from an ICBC perspective, I'm very comfortable that that is a net positive. Taking a second test that if you fail, you drive yourself home back onto the highway and do it all by yourself does less than these conditions. So on that piece, we don't make these decisions, but we have some role and advice, and I don't think that I am not worried about that. I actually think the longer period with conditions will add way more benefit and improve accessibility for people trying to get jobs and do those things on the road. So that is I think the key part of the question for safety.
Yeah, thanks for taking that one. Minister, what is government doing to ensure trucking companies are included in transportation planning and policy decisions?
That's an association question. I know you got Dave Earl here in the audience from the BC Trucking Association. That's one of the key areas that my ministry works with in terms of what are the needs of the trucking industry. Like we have good communication with them in terms of the kind of policy changes that the ministry will be looking at. I know, for example, there's an issue that's just been raised in the legislature around having dash cams on all commercial trucks in the province. Sounds like a great idea. Why wouldn't you be in favor of that? But working with the trucking industry, they explain, look, it is a good idea, but it needs to be done nationally. Otherwise, you're going to create a patchwork approach across the country, which is inefficient and is going to cause some significant challenges for drivers here in BC. So what we do now is like, okay, if we're going to do that, then we will work at the national level to ensure that happens. And so it's a question of ensuring that we're working with our partners in the different sectors, in this case trucking, as to what are the kinds of regulations that they need. How do we make sure we've got drivers trained as well as they can be? How are we ensuring that they've got that we're not undercutting? How are we identifying what are the problems the industry is often facing? And sometimes it's not what you automatically think. So there was a problem recently that at the federal provincial ministers' meetings, the industry identified as it's called Drivers Inc. And I won't get quite into it because you can get in depth. So the bottom line is it means legitimate trucking drivers who are skilled and trained are being undercut. It means provinces and the federal government are losing revenue. And it means good employers, good drivers are at a disadvantage. While many thought, oh, it's roads or this or that, the industry is saying that's the problem. The province has worked with the federal government, and there's some announcements on that to start to deal with that issue. So that's the way we go about working with industry, in this case, the trucking industry.
Great, thank you. Question for Kevin on zoning. So with SkyTrain, just one stop from Columbia Station to get to Scott Road crosses zones. I feel you've maybe gotten this question before, you're familiar with it. It costs more than to travel further within the same zone to get to Metrotown, for example. Has TransLink considered distance-based fares or other options to maybe just to address what might feel like a disparity or a lack of fairness?
Yeah, I concede the point. It is a problem. The compass system, as you all know it today, is is at its max. We can do no more with it. You might have lots of ideas from you, your friends, and your family about what you would like to see improve with the Compass system. I would love to do those things. I cannot with the system that we have today. And so our board did pass a resolution several years ago endorsing a distance-based fare system, which is what most modern systems have today. Unfortunately, with the Compass system we have today, we can't do that. That said, just a few weeks ago, we released our request for proposals for a brand new Compass modernization program to modernize our entire Compass system, to move from a card-based system to an account-based system. That would allow us just tremendous flexibility to do a distance-based fare system, to do, I don't know, like a loyalty program. And imagine you get your Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, but it's really about transit and what stations you use the most or what bus routes you use the most, right? No one else is getting really excited about this, but I get excited about these kinds of things, right? Mayor Johnson was like, I would like to see that. So it would allow us to do more things, or even like programs like you're on the SkyTrain or you're on a bus and get off here at this local coffee shop and get 10% off, and so we can do partnerships, right? Like all these really cool things that you can do now, we can't do under our current system. So we want to modernize that system. Also, just to tie it back to a previous conversation, imagine using your Compass card or your Compass-based system to pay for a scooter or an e-bike, right? So how do we make it our transport payment perspective for people to use our entire options across our transportation system?
Fantastic, thank you. It sounds like I think I would use that, the Spotify Wrapped for transit. There you go.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. Jason, you touched a bit on enhanced care and the massive change that was provincially for our system and the focus now on delivering care, right, removing fault and all that. I'm curious, what else are you looking at in terms of innovation and major changes at ICBC that put the customer first? Whether it's maybe technology or the things that you're looking at to just continue to improve the customer service experience, if you will.
Yeah, and there's a few things I touched on, but I'll expand on them a bit. In enhanced care, for sure, we keep getting better. It was a fundamental shift in our role and moving into disability management. It's all with partners, with treatment providers and disability associations. So we've really moved into consultation and listening in those areas and expanding it. And we measure success in that area in a very different way. It's about how long does it take people to get back to health. That's really, and what was their experience? If there are two things I look at in enhanced care at the top line, it's those two things. It's very different from the company we were before. But yes, technology opportunities are the other real opportunity. We have things like mileage and parking you can now submit if you were injured online. We have a locator tool. So if you were injured and need a treatment provider, you can go on that tool, see where there are treatment providers in your area that are our partners, and including which ones will not charge any user fee above our rate, which is about 72% of them. So more of those opportunities and more ways to access ICBC online and in the driver licensing world. ICBC inherited driver licensing in 1996. We haven't really modernized it at all, but I think there are real opportunities in the near future. Online renewals, remote knowledge tests, other things we can do, which will actually have people drive less as well, right? Because you'll be able to access a lot more of our services at home.
Thank you. This is a business audience, so we all know goods movement is essential to our province and to British Columbians. Minister, is there priority on removing their words, vast amounts of red tape that exists, not only between provinces, but municipalities in BC to facilitate that economic activity?
There's a lot of work at the national level in terms of dealing with interprovincial trade and interprovincial goods movement. It relates to what I talked about a moment ago, and that means working with the industry to identify what are the key roadblocks, what are the key areas of challenges they're faced, and it's trying to ensure that we've got the right regulations right across the country. One thing that I've heard from the industry and one thing that we want to be clear on is it's not about getting red tape in terms of cutting standards. It's one thing to drive, across the prairies. It's another thing to drive in British Columbia, with our topography and geography and terrain, and the challenging conditions that we face, and we saw that, in the atmospheric river. So it's a question of what are the right regulations, making sure that as much as possible they're uniform across the country. That's one of the critical ways in which we can make reduce red tape, increase efficiency, and help industry.
Excellent. Kevin, how is TransLink going to fund the remaining gap in their funding plan? It's our top question from the audience at the moment. Or Minister?
Is that a question for me?
Actually, I think it's for both of us.
Let's see. Maybe I'll take a first stab at this. So I guess first it starts with our own cost effectiveness and being sure that we're doing everything we can at TransLink to be cost effective. And we've really focused on that through a series of reviews and audits and all kinds of stuff just to kind of unearth and be sure we're using every penny wisely. So I want to start with that it really starts with us being a cost effective and efficient organization. I noted that our funding challenges didn't start overnight. They're not going to get solved overnight. And so, the province and working with our mayor's council, our board has been just really helpful in helping us get through providing over $1 billion in provincial funding to get us through the pandemic and keep our service levels high. Folks, if you think back to the pandemic, you might remember the pandemic hit. We dropped to 14% of normal ridership levels. That was tremendous. That's a huge fare loss. We then kept fares low for a number of years. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, we didn't do a fare increase, 0%. And then every year thereafter, we did 2% fare increases. So, for the next 4 years. So think about over a 5-year period, 2020 to 2024, we raised fares a total of 8%. Think about inflation during that time. Think about labor rates during that time. I will tell you, it did not increase 8% over 5 years. It was closer to 25%. So we've got to get up to a point where our revenues match our expenses. I noted the loss that we've seen from the fuel tax, and that's been really quite an impact to our budget. As part of the 2025 investment plan, the provincial government did commit to introducing a new revenue source for TransLink in 2027. And so we are hopeful that helps solve a portion or all of our funding gap. And so, we're really happy to execute that agreement with the province and really look forward to that and the impact it's going to make.
That, just building on that, this is one of the crucial issues that we have got to solve. We've committed to doing it. Our caucus, our government recognizes the importance of transit, not just in terms of being able to move people, but in its ability to shape growth in the Lower Mainland. And so if we're not able to solve that operational shortfall, we're going to have a real problem. I can tell you, for New Westminster, your MLA, Minister Whiteside, has been a strong advocate along with me that we have got to fix this problem. That's why the agreement, and it is an agreement that we have signed with TransLink, is a commitment to put in place a new funding tool to assist with the operating deficit that TransLink has been facing. Before it was always kind of talked about. Now it's a recognition that the gas tax has been declining. We've seen the growth of EVs, and that they need additional sources of revenue. That will be in place for 2027. I will make one thing, because I get asked it all the time. It will not be road pricing. I often get asked that, but it will be a mechanism that ensures funding for TransLink, and I'm looking forward to getting that in place on time according to the agreement we've got.
Thank you. I think we have time for one final quick question. Someone asked, have you, I suppose any of you, considered working with employers to reduce congestion, either mandating staggered workdays, transit discounts, maybe there's an insurance mechanism, partnerships? Does anything come to mind, or maybe some of you are already doing so?
I think you're seeing some of that already happening with employers. I mean, we saw it in COVID, an increase of people working from home. You're also seeing a reverse of many employers wanting people to be back in the office. And I think that's up to the private sector in the best way to balance that. But one of the things that we also can do as a province is to encourage, the ability people by funding and building transit, giving people choices and options. that's one of the most effective ways in which we can help communities, businesses, the public to make choices that work for them in terms of how they're going to move about our region, and that will help business.
From an ICBC perspective?
I would just say the discounts we provide for low kilometer driving is we sincerely hope not just does it reflect your risk, but it encourages you to reduce the risk by getting eligible for those discounts. So that's one thing we're doing.
I'll just make a very quick plug. We have our Transit for Employers program where we partner with employers. You can get a sort of think about it like a LEED building certification, right? You can get sort of the stamp of approval that you support your employees taking transit. I'll also just note that we have worked with of employers and happy to talk to folks after this to get, postal code data from them of where their employees live to better target our routes so that we can be sure that we have routes getting folks to their employment centers and jobs.
Fantastic. Thank you to the three of you for spending your morning with us. A round of applause, please, for our panelists.
Thank you once again to Chief Rhonda Larrabee, Mayor Patrick Johnstone, Minister Farnworth, Jason McDaniel, and Kevin Quinn for joining us today and for sharing your thoughtful insights. Our region's transportation ecosystem works when we all partner together. I'd also like to say thank you to Hayley Wooden-Hastings for moderating today's discussion. She's done an amazing job. And for the record, I have no issues with the bike lanes in New West because the mayor is the only one that uses them. Just saying. This event would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, the New Car Dealers Association of BC, the City of New Westminster, and Starlight Casino. We truly appreciate your support. As we continue our winter programming, we invite you to join us at our upcoming events. December 3rd, Waves Wednesday, which is Meet Your Business Support Team. This is in conjunction with the Downtown New Westminster BIA, so you'll get to meet all your board members and the BIA board members. December 4th, this is a New West Business Winter Social, again in conjunction with the Downtown BIA, Uptown BIA, Sapperton Collective, Tourism New West, and the Arts Council of New West. You can purchase tickets online at any one of the organization's website. There is a link. January 23rd, we will continue with our Business Breakfast Series, The Current and Future Workforce in New Westminster. January 30th, we're going to try something different from a Beer Friday. We're going to do a Chai and Nasta Friday, Nasta being snacks, which we will host at the Four Seasons Chat House on 6th Street. If you're not a Chamber member, we encourage you to join us, enjoy member-only discounts, and support the New Westminster's vibrant business community. Finally, I want to recognize our incredible Chamber team. For those of you that don't know, New West is a working board chamber. We do not have an executive director, so all of the Chamber board members contribute. I'd like to thank Heidi Madrell, our vice chair, Charles Moulin, our executive board member, Alicia Kerr, our board secretary, Jordan Kofsky, Sunny Garcha, Harry Johnny, as well from our team. We have Harleen Kaur, who helps us with the events, Sophie Huang, who helps with our administration, and Joe Nguyen, who does all our social media. Now, for those, your hard work makes events like these possible. For those of you that put your business card in this morning for a draw, we have a $150 vehicle safety kit as courtesy of ICBC. I'm just gonna, Minister Farnworth. Thank you. The winner is Karen Crosby from New Westminster Climate Action Hub. Thank you, ICBC, for this door prize. We appreciate it. Thank you all for spending the morning with us. We look forward to seeing you at our upcoming events. Have a wonderful Friday and an even better weekend. Thank you. Haley?
All-star cast.
Sorry, I was talking.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I know, we were talking to some of your staff, some of the data staff, we're working on some good stuff. Yeah, we're up, I mean, you're right. I think it's a real problem for us as a region.
Thanks for having us. No, it's I don't even talk that far. I used to. Right? I was like, now why are we up here? Yeah. Heidi's over there. I know. So now the sun is in my eyes. Yes. We know your name now. Yeah, welcome, man. Well, it's a lot of work. Your term officially started in like, how's that going? I signed this last week. Yeah. So
You're the person that's on that committee representing the chamber. So if you're not sharing that information with the board, then somebody who is going to share that information should be affected. I don't want to be challenging about this, but I like to focus on it. It's a very important program that everybody
Yeah, my brother runs.
8 million dollars.
He runs.
We invest and the business is doing. So if you're not able to do that, and that's fair, we're all business, then let us know. You need to let us know. We don't take it alone. So the chamber needs to agree, I guess, that somebody else is going to get it. Or we'll just to get that information. Because it was really disappointing to me personally that not a lot of the business chamber is. So I'm a little bit confused. We're offering something, the federal government's offering something, into it, and the chamber isn't aware of it. Okay? But I get that you're busy. Hopefully it's good busy. Yeah.
And he's doing it. Okay. But he also doesn't charge per hour. Yeah. He's charging for service. He says it's up to me to figure out how many hours I have to do.
See you later.
So it's been interesting to watch him transition from working at a big firm to running his own small firm. Competition. No, I got my bike here. Good to see you. Yeah. Oh, nice to meet you. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thanks for helping out with us. All right, okay, we got to get a... I know.
Am I in? Yes or no? Well, Jay. Gabrielle go? Yeah, it's like out and out.
So I'm just going to do a board photo, but let's just make sure Jason is look after. I want to introduce Jason to Werner.
Real quick, and then we got to do a bit of a video to get this promoted on social media.
Are you the one that does all the social media
Well,
magic work?
I work in marketing communications, so supporting Jason and the outreach. So yeah.
The posts are always good.
Thank
And the
you.
interviews with Jason,
Yeah. Oh, good.